What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we've got a brand new 4-2-3-1, an asymmetric 4-2-3-1, a very fun tactic inspired by Valverde himself. If you do enjoy the tactics, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And once again, if you want to get access to all of my tactics from this entire year, all of my rebuild files, you can go over and check out the Patreon in the description below and be part of a team of 5,000 people. Let's go over and break down the results first, starting with the mighty Bilbao. Then with Bilbao, we achieved absolute massive things. We really did. We go on to lift the Spanish Cup in dominant 4-0 fashion over Sevilla, and also go on to push Madrid very close to that title. Now, I will say, of course, we don't get the job done. We're very shy off doing it, but we are going to outplace teams like Barca and also Atletico Madrid, with a team that are predicted to finish, I believe, 6th place. So a very good return, a very good overachieving season. It does help winning this Spanish Cup as well. Now, in terms of the actual division, you can go over again and see some of our key players being in the stat lines, but as an actual team, we are going to be up there with the goals being scored. Possession wise, we're going to be very competitive, but where we really stood out is going to be this defensive side of the game. The fewest conceded and the most clean sheets. We did not play about, and I will say this was using the defensive version of the tactic, to make that very clear, the defensive version of the tactic. Now, going over to the data hub, we can go over and see 2.39 goals a game, 0.42 conceded, a good amount of shots per game, a very good pass completion, and this whole defensive tactic is a much more possession-based version. We're now going to go over and test with the likes of Bayern, which was tested with the default version. Let's get into it. But just because it is a possession tactic, it doesn't mean that you can't have these sorts of games. This is going to be a 6-0 win in the league, which is a ridiculous scoreline, considering this tactic, the defensive version, is a much more sort of controlling, get your goal maybe 2 max per game. This game, the play was so sublime. It was elegant, and this is why I do put my tactics up there with the very best, because you can see in game what they do. They perform to such a high level, whether they're designed to go very direct, very short passing. This is much more of a short pass and play tactic, and it's just the link up is so beautiful. We never give up, and when we need to do so, we're not afraid to also go that bit more direct and get the ball into the big man up front. And this is at the point of a game where we're only 3-0 up. These is only half the amount of goals we've got to show you just in this highlight today. As you can see, individual quality being shown as well. This tactic genuinely does get a lot of stuff out of the players. You've got wingers in there, you've got DMs, you've got box-to-boxers, you've got all sorts of players that can showcase, and yeah, how about that for showcasing? Now over to FC Bayern using the default version of the tactic, and as you can see, we put on an absolute masterclass. We're going to lift the Pokal against Freiburg 4-2, a bit of an interesting final, but we do get the job done. And as for the league, we only actually lose 2 games, and those games are against Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Now, our players dominated the amount of stat lines you can have. The player stats, the average rating, the clean sheets, the assists, we were absolutely everywhere, and that also goes for the team stats. Most goals, most shots, fewer shots against, possession 59%. Now, we are a better team in a league where possession is quite easy to have, but that is still a very good stat line. Defensively, absolutely remarkable. Now, the difference between this tactic and the deep sort of defensive one is this is a lot more outgoing, a lot more attacking minded, and therefore we are going to score more goals. We are going to have a fraction of a less pass completion, but this tactic is designed to be used for sort of a top 4 team or a powerhouse team. What I am going to do though is we are going to go over and use the attacking version and showcase the results we've got with Arsenal, because that tactic is really goal heavy. That is all, you know, sending it very big. So we are going to go over, and this is why I always say, please make sure you're either copying or going over and getting all 3 versions, because I use all 3 in the videos. I don't just do it for the shits and gigs. We do it to use and get the results. So let's go over, watch some highlights from Bayern, then into Arsenal. Against some of the toughest opposition in the German league, we are going to come out and absolutely be, well, we're not phased at all is what we are. Harry Kane is going to play it through to Musiala to go 1-0 up inside of 8 minutes and 14 seconds. And I tell you what, this was a game where the Bayern side really took the game to Dortmund, and Dortmund, I would argue, actually folded. Into Goretzka, ball back inside, into Kingsley Coman, goes through and makes it 2 just after half-time in the 45th minute. And we are going to be the team Yeah, we're going to be the team that goes on to make this a 3-0 lead with Upamecano. Plays it inside into Goretzka. Is he going to go alone? That is the old Goretzka, the informed Goretzka that we do love to see. Now, Dortmund, to their credit, do go on and score 1 goal. And I will showcase the goal because it was just a very good bit of play. Very direct. They get past our centre-backs. But look at the scoreline. We didn't have to worry. And now over to Arsenal, where we did use the attack inversion and we absolutely cooked, because the only thing we didn't win is the Carabao Cup. We do lift the FA Cup 6-2 over Newcastle. We just about edge out PSG in the Champions League final, and we go on to storm the Premier League, only losing 3 games, 2 against City, 1 against United, and draw 1 game against Palace. But we have got four players in the average rating, the most clean sheets. We've got players in the goal category. We are absolutely thriving in the Premier League, and we are going to have the most goals, the most shots, the fewer shots against. Possession wise, we are still going to have it despite being a lot more attacking, and defensively we are still somehow being that dominant team. Now the data hub is going to look like this. So the most goals with the most attack and tactic, who would have thought? The conceded, still very, very good, under half a goal a game, a good amount of shots per game, and a sublime pass completion. So just to make this very, very clear, with Arsenal, the attacking version, with Bayern, the normal version, and of course, a little brainwave there, with the likes of Bilbao, we did use a defensive version. Each version is designed for different teams. Whoever you're playing with back home, you figure out who you got, what tactic you got to use with what team. Usually it goes the powerhouse, obviously for top 4, the default for top 6 to top 8, and obviously the defensive, either to defend a game out with or for a bit of a weaker team. Let's get into the tactic breakdown though, but first, let's go and watch some highlights of Arsenal. And we are going to watch the game against Liverpool in the league, because it's a game away from home, and to beat a team like Liverpool 5-0 away from home, I would actually argue is a bigger achievement than winning the Champions League 3-2. So we are going to go over and actually watch these highlights, because it was a very impressive game, and there was not a single stage of this game where we looked a little bit ropey, a little bit shaky, and this game, as I will keep saying, was on the attack and variant. We didn't change it to go in away from home. We went in, and sometimes I feel like people get scared playing teams like Liverpool, City, them sorts of teams. Sometimes if you go in and you actually take the game to them, they absolutely crumble. And I mean, at the moment, we're 3-0 up in 39 minutes. Now, you know, if I was to go in with the defensive version, with the default version, we might be sort of a 1-0 lead, but a little bit edgy. Sometimes going in on all attacking mode is the best way to do it. This game is known for being broken when you full send games with the higher line, with that sort of stuff going on. It's known for being broken for it, so it will get results. And as you can see, we didn't even concede a goal. That is now going to be our 5th. That is shocking from Alisson. Right then, over to your favourite part of the video. That is going to be the tactic breakdown. If you are enjoying, a like would mean the absolute world, and be sure to subscribe as well. Now, if you do enjoy rebuilds, make sure you are coming on over to Daily Josh. It's going to be in the description. We post rebuilds once every 2 to 3 days, and Bilbao are going to have a rebuild coming up. So make sure I see your beautiful face over there. But to make this tactic, all you want to do is select, create your own style, and load in that 4-2-3-1 DM wide. We're going to go and change it a fair bit, but that's going to be your base foundation. Then, so the first big change is to go right down into this bottom left corner and change all the way up to positive. That is going to be the much needed change. We are then going to go right into the player roles today, no faffing about, and go right into the sweeper keeper, who is going to be simply set to support. Nothing too crazy, but he must be able to do what a sweeper keeper does, therefore he is going to be on that role. We are then going to operate with 2 centre backs, surprise at a 4-2-3-1, and both of them are simply going to be ball playing defenders. Now, by default, they are going to be taking more passing risks, and that's exactly what I want them to be doing in this system. So therefore, there's no real additional instructions that either of these ball players need. Going over to the fullbacks, yes, we are going to be using fullbacks today. They are going to be on support, but they are going to have a couple of instructions. So let's go over and talk about those right now. They are going to consist of cross more, getting further forwards, also setting to stay wider, and also tackling harder. So that is going to be 4 instructions: cross more, get forward, stay wider, and also tackle harder. And that's going to be exactly the same for the left-hand side as well. So as you can see, the same 4 instructions being applied there. So it is a nice and easy to copy mirrored back line. Now going over to the 4-2-3-1 DM, this is where it does get a little bit asymmetric. Things do change a little bit. We are going to go in with the DM on the right-hand side on support, who is going to have, again, a couple of instructions. He's going to be told to tackle harder and also take fewer passing risks. This is a very risk-free player, just to sort of sit deep, defend, protect the back 4, because next to him, we are going to drag this player upwards and introduce a box-to-box who has only got 1 instruction. That is going to be set to tackle harder. Now, some people get confused with a box-to-box and they feel like you have to have this on for him to get forwards. He still will get forwards without it being selected. We saw it in the highlights. I've seen it in the game. So he is simply just going to be told to tackle harder. I do want to quickly say at any part of this video, if you do want to get access to all 3 of these tactics today, also get them on console and on mobile, and unlock all of my tactics from this year, and all of my rebuild files, and all of these perks, by the way, including a £700 PayPal giveaway. You can come over and check out the Patreon. It's going to be in the description. That giveaway's got a few more days left, so make sure you come on over and get involved, because it's a big giveaway for the FM scene, but because of the support has been absolutely unreal, I do love to give back. But let's go forward and look at the front 4. So on the left hand side, we are going to operate with an inverted winger on support, and he is going to have a fair few instructions. Those are going to consist of setting him to cross more, also getting forwards, sitting narrow, and also marking a position. Now he is on the left hand side, so he will be marking the right hand side. Obviously it is vice versa. On the right hand side, we are going to go with an inside forward who is going to be set to support, and he is going to be told to sit narrow and also mark a position. He's on the right, so he will be marking, of course, the left hand side. Now in the midfield, we have got a very, very, very role heavy player. That means there's a lot of instructions, so lock in and get ready to copy. An attacker midfield player on attack, and this is where I've got to remember. So we are going to go with take more risks. We're going to go with dribble more. We are also going to go with roam from position, move it into the channels, and also shoot less often. So to clarify, take more risks, dribble more, shoot less, roam, and move into the channels. And you'll be pleased to know that the last player only has 1 instruction. As the advanced forward, he is simply going to be set to tackle harder. Those are going to be your player roles. Now going over to the actual team instructions, we are going to go through and talk about it right now. So the attack and width is going to go up by 1 to fairly wide. We're going to focus down the left and the right while playing out from the back. The final third is a necessity that it is set to low crosses, and we are simply going to have the tempo up to higher and the passing down by 1 to shorter. In transition, we're going to look to counter press and counter and play to anyone across the wonderful backline while taking short goal kicks. And lastly, out of possession, we're going to go right in with that mid block with the higher defensive line, get stuck in, and a maxed out trigger press. So again, quite different from the usual meta tactics, especially in this tab. No high press, no much higher defensive line, but it's a very, very fun tactic. And what we are going to do right away is go right in to the attack and tactic that was obviously tested with a team not like Bilbao, but a bit more of a stronger team. Now, this is going to be along the same lines, but it's just a little bit more attacking in certain areas. Now, both of the goalkeeper and both of the ball players do remain the same, as do the fullbacks. The big change, firstly, is the DLP. He comes in on support on tackle harder instead of the DM. The box-to-box is now told to get further forwards, just to make him a little bit more attacking. The inverted winger on the left is now on attack, on cross more often, sit narrow, and mark the right-hand side. And the right, again, the inside forward, the same instructions, but now set to attack. We've also opted to have a shadow striker in, so it does actually somewhat attack in a 4-2-4 shape, with the advanced forward being unchanged. Now, when it comes to the team instructions, we are still going to be set to positive, so don't worry, that doesn't change. The attack and width doesn't change either. The final third also will not change, as does any of this stuff, but what does change is the addition of Be More Expressive, and that is just going to take this tactic from being quite an attacking tactic already, but really adding a bit more firepower. Now in transition, we're going to counter press, we're going to counter, distribute quickly, play to anyone across the back line, while simply taking short goal kicks. And lastly, out of possession, we are going to use the high press with the higher defensive line, step up more, get stuck in, and of course, a maxed out trigger press. And that's going to be your attacking version. Your defensive version, again, for Bilbao or for smaller teams, or to simply have a more possession-based style, we are going to have a fair few changes. So this version is not, you know, too fancy. It's your bog standard 4-2-3-1, and it is very good for holding the ball. So the goalkeeper and the ball players do remain the same. The fullbacks do change a little bit. So both on support, but now on cross less often, shoot less often, tackle harder, stay wider, and also get further forwards. We're now going to have 2 DMs. The one on the left is going to be a default defensive DM, and the one on the right is going to be the same as the default. On support, take fewer risks, and also tackle harder. The inverted winger on the left is going to be pass it short, sit narrow, and mark the left or the right hand side, should I say. And on the right, inside forward on support, mark on the left, sit narrow, and also passing it shorter. The AM, you won't be surprised, is also dropped back a little bit, moving into the channels, roaming, and also passing it short. And that complete forward comes in, opposed to the advanced forward, to help link up the play simply on tackle harder. So you can already tell how this might be a possession-based tactic. You've got players sitting sort of narrowly here who can obviously link up the play. A few players on pass it short as well. The wing-backs not being told to spam crosses in, so it is much more of a possession-based game. And the team instructions do help showcase that as well. Now, we are still going to be on that clean slate, on the positive mentality, and the attack and width does remain the same. The final third does remain the same. This remains the same, but it does change, and this is where it changes. So the first thing is to work the ball into the box. I only really want high quality chances. The tempo goes down by 1, and the passing goes all the way down to much shorter. So a very, very, very low tempo game that controls and dominates possession. In transition, we still are going to counter, because the idea is when we've not got the ball, we'll run like absolute loose dogs. The second we've got the ball, control the game. And on the sort of last thing on this page is to play to the back line while taking short goal kicks. So pretty bog standard. And lastly, out of possession, we're going to go with the standard line with that mid block, still the maxed out trigger press, and also get stuck in. And that's going to give you 3 versions of Valverde's asymmetric sort of inspired tactic. I wouldn't say it's 100% dead replica of his system, but it is a very, very close inspired tactic. So I want to give credit. I don't want to say it's all my thinking, and I really like the way that it plays in game. Now, I will say make sure you are getting all 3 tactics, because even like you've got on my screen here, have all 3 loaded into the game, because game situations change. Sometimes you go a goal up, you want to go defensive. Sometimes you go a goal down, you want to go more attacking. So make sure you've got all 3 preloaded in. It's a very useful feature, which still some of my viewers didn't even know about. So hopefully you are come to terms with that now, and you can pick up all 3, whether you copy or download them. Either way works. You get the tactics, and hopefully you have enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.